Hi guys, Itai here. I am piloting my real day job, but then I come home and I go into the flight simulator and I enjoy simulating things that I don't get to do as much in real world. And recently I've been circumnavigating the world in Super 6, the Pan American DC-6, all around the world. And recently, Navigraph Charts has implemented the major update that I personally have been waiting for forever, and it's been it's going to upgrade my own experience tremendously, and honestly, kind of match it to what we have in real life. And that is, of course, the weather. So there's several tutorials or YouTubers out there that just showcase exactly what this thing can do, and I'm kind of going to touch base on the same thing, but I'm going to approach it differently. I'm going to continue my journey around the world. We have the upcoming leg, Tokyo to Wake Island, as you can see on the screen, and since I'm about to do this leg, I was going to maybe show you how do I approach weather charts for with the orientation of preparing for a flight. So as you can see, we have RJAA Tokyo, we have Wake Island, we have Pigum. That's what is it? I forget. One of the an ETOPS alternate that we have, and our actual alternate is Midway. Yes, I know it's extremely far. Don't worry, we have the fuel, but that's not what we're here to discuss. So how do we approach the weather? Of course, I'm in the Navigraph charts app. It is recently updated. I'm going to the weather area, and I'm not talking about fuel or anything, just the weather, okay? It first starts on radar, and I think most people would tend to stay on this page because it does show a nice depiction of where the convective clouds are. Remember, radars pick up moisture in the air, and where there's a lot of moisture in the same place, it means rain. And if it's rain, it most likely is a cumulonimbus, right? So the problem is you need a radar coverage for this, and we're just about to go deep into the Pacific, and there's not much radar there. So just that's a quick note about radar. So how do I approach a long flight like that when I'm about to fly? So for me personally, I would start with Ermit Sigmit. Why is that? Because these are warnings issued by an area, an FIR or ARTCC for a specific designated area, and we can open it and kind of see what it talks about. Like here in China, for example, we have a Sigmit for in the FIR. There's embedded thunderstorm forecast north of so-and-so point, tops to flight level 530. That's very high. So that's an indication. Not only can I outclimb it, the answer is no, of course, but also it's an indication of the intensity of the storms. And it's moving east-northeast 30 kilometers per hour. So that's one indication. When I start a flight plan like that, I just want to see if there's any area highlighted. So yes, there's not necessarily a radar for my entire route of flight, but there's still an agency in charge of that. And if they issue a warning, I might want to start with that. And of course, I can change the different warnings for this thunderstorms only, or for mountain obscurations, or IFR conditions, or icing and stuff like that. So I don't see anything like that. We can move on to the next thing. Let's close this. Actually, so I just glance at in general if there's stuff like that, and then I pause, and first of all we have the flight plan. I'm not going to go over the flight plan with you guys, but I do want to make sure that the METARs and TAFs are legal for this flight. So I can also do that from here. I can go to airports. I can go first of all to Narita, information, whether the METARs what we need for the departure. It's as I like to call it, severe VMC. So it's a really nice weather for the departure overall. We can also glance at the TAF for the relative, ballpark time of departure. Most importantly, to be fair, I would go to the destination, see what the weather looks like. So for this is the TAF, the METAR right now. We still have almost 8 hours of flight, so we want to see the TAF, the forecast. So you can see that I'm not going to get into how to read a TAF here, but we can see that it's also severe VMC for the entire duration. We also have two other airports that of interest, Midway, our destination alternate. So if we go to the TAF, also no weather of no, I mean vicinity showers ending roughly around the time of arrival. Oh, actually no, it continues on, but nothing special in terms of preventing us from go there at any point. And of course we have the ETOPS alternate. What was it? Just for my interest, Guam, of course, Guam. What am I saying? Of course, it's Guam. And again, for the TAF, everything looks fine to me. So that's the legal stuff. And another part of the legal stuff is not to go into severe icing or severe turbulence. So we might want to check that as well. And again, the SIGMET would be an indication of that. We could read that here. So now we've established the legalities. Let's just see what we're expecting to have here. So I'm starting with the big picture stuff. So this AirMet SIGMET is one big picture stuff. I can go to the where is that MSL pressure? It's kind of a replacement for the prognostic chart, prog chart. What it gives me is like weather systems, as it's far from en route, but you can see a very low area here. It's almost guaranteed to have some kind of a storm here, especially with that gradient and everything. That's very, very low pressure. And there's also a little bit of a low pressure here, but in between it's relatively normal, relatively calm. There is some gradient here. Obviously winds are going to go from high to low, so the low is going to drag the wind, the air towards it, and because of Coriolis effect, it's going to slightly curve it to the right. So it's giving me an indication also not only weather systems but also the general discipline of the winds in the area. I can confirm that later, but by actually going to the wind barbs. And there's a little bit of a wind turbulence here. If the wind barbs are changing too much in a certain area, that might be an indication for turbulence. That's flight level 220. That's why it's so different, because I was looking at MSL. Here we go. That's more likely. You can see now the wind barbs kind of match what I said, because we were kind of looking at sea level prognostic chart, not the high level prognostic chart. So we can kind of see 15 knots in the head at most. So that's pretty good in general. Where we see the barbs kind of go around and curve a little bit, we might expect some turbulence, but I don't see anything big here. Maybe that area around tonic. And I can go later on to the flight plan and check exactly what time into the flight it is, and kind of warn the flight attendants too. Hey, tonic, let's say it's an hour and a half into the flight. You're going to have a little bit, so if you can plan to finish your meal before then, so you're ready to secure the galley if you want to, you can. So that was the MSL pressure. Jet streams, it won't be relevant for our flight because we're staying low, but of course if we go to the high 30s, that would be a significant factor. Jet streams are not going to do much on those altitudes. So we're still on the big picture stuff, like what is generally speaking going on. Now we can kind of start diving into the smaller stuff. What is smaller stuff? The radar, for example, like specifically what happens in different areas in terms of storm. Another indication that's lesser known for that is the reflectivity. Reflectivity is basically trying to see from above and what are the highest tops of altitudes, and that's arguably a better indication than the radar for intensity, because as we said before, the higher the echo tops are, the cloud tops are, it means the higher the stronger the lifting forces are within certain clouds, and therefore the stronger convective activity. So we can see just a little bit of stuff here up to around tonic. It's kind of consistent with what we saw with the wind barbs as well. but generally speaking, not much to talk about. Just very isolated cells in between. We can also kind of see what it means. Like we can see that light blue is just probably around, I would say, 15,000 feet. So 15,000 feet cloud tops is not high, which indicates not much of convective activity, even if there is some clouds there. Another tool for that same purpose is icing severity. Is it the icing severity? Yeah, the icing severity. What am I looking for that? Because, as you can see here, if there's icing, well, flight level 100 is one thing. I would definitely want to know if I'm going to accumulate ice on my route. But what I want to do is I want to bump the altitude up to flight level 260. And why do I do that? Because if there's icing, it means we're temperatures below zero, which is expected at flight level 260, but also around visible moisture. So if you have visible moisture, as in actual clouds in flight level 260, most likely it's the upper levels of some kind of activity, if not the actual CB itself, but maybe the anvil or the where the wind is taking the tops of said activity. So again, we don't see much along our route, just a little bit around Japan itself. I would probably tell the flight attendants to remain seated until we can see that we're clear of weather, and then get up once we see that we are clear, because we might expect some turbulence in that area. Speaking of turbulence, so that's for the icing, and obviously the more severe the icing, the more moisture or the more water content in the air at flight level 260 at the same time that it's below zero temperatures. So it's an indication for me as well, not just for the simple fact of accumulating ice, but also how much convective activity is there in this area. Speaking of turbulence, we could just go straight up, look up turbulence. In this case, we do want to see what's going on in our flight level. We're cruising at flight level 11, but 11. Excuse me, flight level 110. So not much along our route, but as we can see, there's a little bit of stuff here, and it's a bit of indication of what we're getting. Honestly, I'm not sure what these scales are. In my company, at least, we use a different software, but I can assume that 45 would be extreme, and somewhere along so like red and orange would be probably severe. I would assume yellow is moderate, and then the green towards yellow is like turbulence, like chop, etc. So that's my assumption. I don't know these values specifically. I did not look it up. I did not do my homework for this. I'm sorry. Cloud cover, that's another general. I think it's a satellite observation, and it's kind of nice to know where we might experience it. Doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but here it might indicate a little bit of turbulence and a little bit of icing. As you can see, it all correlates. It all very much correlates. ISO temperature, I wouldn't use it a lot. Maybe if I'm suspecting icing activity here, we're in the Pacific in the summer. You can see high temperature. It's not, and I'm not seeing much of a difference. It also might be an indication of a front. When there's a frontal activity, you will actually see a quick drop of temperature, for example, along the front. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, guys, I know that not everybody is an expert on aviation weather. You can go look up these terms. I'm just throwing you some thoughts that I'm experiencing here. Tropopause, I'm not going to get into it. It's not going to be relevant for my specific flight, but it does indicate where am I for my airplane performance when I'm flying a jet in high altitudes. Airplane performance and the ability to dodge weather. So with the tropopause is high, we would probably not be able to outclimb weather because the weather tends to be trapped below the tropopause. Convective cloud top layer, that's kind of what we talked about, the tops of the convective clouds. We have an actual scale here for the altitudes. We don't see much. We see occasional stuff, so occasional turbulence. More so, that's probably the some of the vicinity showers that we've seen in the TAF as well, in Guam as well. Nothing that scares me too much, but again, the the higher tops, the more convective activity. So high cloud layer, convective cloud top layer, level, excuse me. And then we can go into the other stuff. Visibility, if I'm expecting an area of IFR, for example, along shorelines, I want to see where it would end at some point. Yeah, I'm kind of scrambling between the different. Like I said, I'm not going to methodically go over each thing and what it means, but I'm just telling you, in general, what might I use each setting for to see if it gives me a hint for what I might encounter. That's really all I have for you guys. Kind of a ramble, kind of what I'm looking for. I'm literally preparing this flight to just start a stream in 30 minutes. So you'll see this video afterwards. But this is what I'm looking for when I'm preparing a flight like that. So just a quick recap. I'm going to start with the bigger picture stuff. So the pressure gradient, the pressure systems. To me, that's like I said, a prognostic chart replacement. If I could actually pull up a prognostic chart, even better. I would start with the airmets sigmets as well to see if there's general indications of warnings around the place we intend to fly. You can also kind of see that the places we've seen stuff before in the other tools, you can see the warnings around these places, right? So airmet sigmet, pressure gradient, then I can start diving into the more specific. Or I can check the area where the tropopause is, I can check the area with the visibility, but then I would start to get into wind barbs, I would get into actual radar, cloud tops, cloud cover, icing severity, and as a reminder to bump up the altitude for the icing severity to give me an indication of where things are. By the way, this low pressure, I haven't looked it up, but it looks kind of mean, to be honest. Wonder what kind of storm is that. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comments. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. If it helped you, let me know. If you have other ideas or other tools that you use or other ways to use the tools that is just provided right now with Navigraph charts, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to hear. Otherwise, I'm very happy for this edition. It would surely enhance my ability to enjoy the flight simulator. Thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy the flight. I'll see you soon there.